Welcome to LUCIA'S Vegan Lifestyle, your show for compassionate living without sacrifice. On this episode of LUCIA'S Vegan Lifestyle, I'm attending Hamptons Doc Fest for a very special film that will open our eyes to the fur industry. I'll talk with vegan comedians and some special announcements coming in January to help you live your best vegan life right here on LUCIA'S Vegan Lifestyle. Chili season is here, at least in some parts of the world. As we seek to keep warm, vegans are fighting still and again to stop the unnecessary and cruel use of our fellow sentient beings, be it on a personal level, in front of designer stores, or in film. I attended the Hamptons Doc Fest to talk with Taimoor Choudrhy about his award-winning documentary, Real Fur, as well as longtime animal rights activist Rachel Levy-Ejsmont. Let's go to Hamptons Doc Fest and talk with Taimoor Choudrhy.
One of the main things that I wanted to actually show through this movie, that all creatures are sentient beings. They feel pain, they feel discomfort, emotions, just like we do, just like our dogs do, just like everybody else does. And so recognizing the sentience through the best way to recognize the sentience for me is when you look at their eyes. When you look into somebody's eyes, when you look into an animal's eyes, what do you see? Do you see a reflection of yourself? When you make that connection, so a lot of the movies, I've touched on every creature's soul, which I think you can see through the eyes. Myself, one of my inciting incidents was when I looked at a cow that was suffering in a market, and when I looked into its eyes and I saw its heart breaking, it broke my heart forever. That inciting incident is one of the main things that I discovered. Everybody has that moment. It's the concept of bearing witness to an animal. When you see its suffering, when you see its pain, our first reaction is to run and hide and go into denial. But if you stand there and witness its pain, that's the moment when you transform, and you can either choose to help that animal and stop more animals stop more animals from suffering, or you can just forget about it. And in the movie, I've highlighted these incidents in all these people's lives. So I've gone into some of the biggest organizations of the world. I wanted to find out what was their inciting incident. One of our biggest things now is to when people get to watch this movie, they share it. They share the website that we have, and they share the movement. So through that, we'll be able to support the animals, because we have a bill in Parliament right now, Bill C-247, that was made during the movie. We filmed the whole bill being made. It's on its first reading. We need to get to the second reading. So this is where the movie comes in. You watch the movie, you learn about the problem, and then we also teach you how to solve it. So with the click of a button, you can you can make such a big change. You can go to Make Fur Farms History, and you sign in your name to the petition, and it sends out an email to the MP in Canada. And once they have enough emails, 5 emails, they have to do something. Only 5 emails. So our hope is to get a number of people involved in this, where the government has to do something. They just can't ignore us anymore.
You're from the fashion world, right? We've seen these great campaigns that PETA did with supermodels, and we thought we won at that time, right? Outmoding fur forever. What do you think is needed in order to, when we have these wins, what do you think we should do in order to maintain that as the status quo, instead of going back and then having to fight the battle again?
So, we've been having very successful campaigns ever since the 70s, 80s. There were such major campaigns, and then everybody thought fur was dead. But then the industry snuck it in the back, and they started putting on fur trim hoodies. It doesn't look like much, but when you take out 1 billion jackets on everybody, that's a lot of animals. So fur made a comeback in a very sneaky, underhanded way. And if fur is dead, which most people think it is, look at the movie and see all the fur farms that exist. It is far from dead. So, and we wanted to use this as an example of that, going and protesting outside these stores and simply opting out and not wearing the jacket has so much effect. And the movie is actually a case study on Canada Goose, on Mikaj, on how our protesters, our animal activists, our lawyers, our filmmakers all got together and didn't give up, and they show how these billion-dollar companies, they have to listen. And then they show we show a couple of case studies that they actually dropped fur completely, and now you go to their website, fur is completely eradicated.
I also got to speak with vegan animal rights activist Rachel Levy-Ejsmont, who is a leader in the New York City anti-fur movement.
It's New York's pleasure to be invited to collaborate with you, Mr. Choudrhy.
You've been an activist for a long time.
I was protesting fur back in the 80s in Montreal. Literally stood on the port of Old Montreal where a lot of the fur trading was happening in the 1600s. And something came, I mean, at a very young age, I always connected fur with my animals, with my members of my family animals, cats and dogs, and I thought it was always very obscene and perverted at the same time. Yeah, would you skin your own dog to wear it as a fur collar, as a senseless, useless decoration? So I got involved in the 80s, right when it was like, you know, let's throw paint at people. And, yeah, I saw PETA's ad, and I was very inspired to get active. And then after a while, again, fur was disappearing. It was frowned upon, and people were not wearing fur anymore. But again, I think the problem is why it resurged again is not that activists got lazy, but we thought it was the end of it, and stopped seeing it in magazines and Vogue and stuff like, you know, in publications. But sure enough, Miss Anna Wintour brought it right back into to the public eyes, you know, claiming that it was glamorous, fur was sustainable. All a bunch of lies, of course it's not. And also Canada Goose. So it was time to get back to work again, so yeah.
And what do you think when we win again, you know, put it out, showing people that it's outmoded and archaic, what do you think next time will be the key to maintaining the, you know, the reality of fur and not allowing it to return?
I think films like Real Fur Film is going to bring out it's going to show the reality to the public. It's going to expose the fur farms for what they are and the people who pay for this. If you're paying to have an animal tortured like that, just to wear that as decoration, what does it say about you? And again, banning fur farms on a legislative level, having bills to ban fur, the sale of fur, people awareness, again, bringing awareness to the public and shaming them for it if they wear it, absolutely. That's how designers are dropping fur left and right. You know, it's not by bringing a box of chocolate and flowers to them that they're going to drop fur. So, again, we have to be consistent. Consistency is key in all this, and we have to keep going nonstop, take a breather, learn to rest, not give up, and keep going until we knock it. It's like a chipping block, you know, you're breaking it down, chipping at every designer that advertise on runways fur as glamorous and you know, just going out there and vilifying them for the animal abusers that they are. And again, don't be afraid to speak up for these animals. If it wasn't for us, these animals wouldn't have anybody.
There are faux furs available from teddy bear to luxury that is indistinguishable from that stripped from living beings. So it is unnecessary to use animals for their fur. Vegans are at times bizarrely subjected to jokes about their choice to live compassionately. Derisive comments are made about a vegan's ethical stance of living without harming our fellow sentient beings and are left to defend their lifestyle. Today, we're coming at it from a different angle. Joining me are Erik Angel, Douglas Doneson, and Diana Vogel, vegan comedians. Ms. Vogel, who goes by Diana the Vegan, is a comedian and pro-vegan activist. She is a known presence at demonstrations, protests, and ongoing activities of the vegan community here in New York. Mr. Doneson is a comedian, lawyer, and a professional vegan, bringing all his different worlds to the stage. And Mr. Angel is an American-Israeli comedian, producer of vegan comedy nights, and traveling the US with his Comedy for Peace project, and hopefully soon with a vegan show. He's not a vegan yet, but says he hopefully will be soon. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us.
So you three met, did you three meet because Erik was putting together a vegan show, or did you know each other already from the comedy circuit?
I met Erik, I think, during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. We did a bunch of Zoom mics together, and then when stuff opened back up, finally I saw him in real life.
I was producing a show by the name The Laboratory, and the idea of the show, every week we had a different theme. One day he came to me and said, well, how about a vegan show? And I loved the idea, and then he introduced me to Diana. The place made a special dish for the evening, and they had some kind of their own menu, and it was a great success. And the audience were amazing, intelligent, and it was fun to perform. So we just felt there was something there, and we decided to continue.
The vegan menu was my idea.
And I was about to ask you, was it vegan? Was it like, you know, because being vegans, we're like, some of us are not foodies and some of us are. So what was on the menu?
It wasn't a place that's 100% vegan. It's not a vegan restaurant, but they had vegan dishes like, you know, hummus and salads and stuff.
Hummus. Yeah. Do you guys get sick of hummus? I could eat hummus for the rest of my life every day.
I eat so much hummus that it's you could call it a homicide.
I didn't know.
No.
It's very hard to find good hummus here, but I already know places and areas that I can break my cravings.
Okay.
Any tips for us?
Yeah,
where's the best hummus in New York?
I cannot tell you. They didn't pay me to promote them. I cannot. I'll tell you after. But it's not easy. In Israel, I have my specific places. It's like heaven on earth to hummus.
Yeah, speaking of Israel, it's a very vegan-friendly. I hear it all the time that Israel is such a vegan-friendly place.
Yeah, we have restaurants there. Yeah, it's in Tel Aviv, we're vegan-friendly, gay-friendly. It's the only good things they're telling about Israel is that we're vegan-friendly and gay-friendly.
I'm an Israeli. I speak falafel.
I'm very, if you're talking about this, I'm very concerned about what's going on in Israel, politically wise.
Okay, yeah, so you have actually a comedy show that's based on this.
Yes, I have a comedy show called a project called Comedy for Peace. It's basically an evening with Jewish and Muslim comedians. We're starting our 4th season now. We did already like 6-7 tours around America.
Wow.
It's hard work, but it's a lot of fun to bring communities together, to try to, to reduce the hate, to get to know each other a little bit better. And just love to do it.
We're all people. We're all sentient beings, as is the topic of this show. So let's talk about veganism. How long have you both been vegan? Or each of you? How long has each of you been vegan?
I've been vegetarian since 2007, vegan since 2008.
Amazing. And what made you go vegetarian and then vegan?
So interesting. I used to be a zookeeper. And I was a zookeeper.
Is this true or is it
This is true. This is true. I was a zookeeper.
So you never know with good comedians.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had to prepare diets. I was a bird keeper.
Oh.
And I had to prepare diets for all the birds of prey. And that entailed me, I had to basically fillet rats and mice every day, hundreds of rats and mice to feed the birds of prey. And I got grossed out. It was so gross. I'd go home and make burgers, and it was like the rat meat and mouse meat felt the same as like burger meat. So whereas a lot of people become vegan because they love animals, I actually became vegan initially because I got grossed out by animals.
Because you hated them.
Later on, I adopted like the ethical reasons and like the environmental reasons, but initially I was like, yuck,
Wow, this is a great story.
Yeah.
So now, vegetarian, because what was it about the dairy that wasn't connecting yet?
Well, yeah, I like your terminology because ultimately I connected that it's all the same, right? Meat, dairy, it's all from an animal, which is like, it's just kind of like, I think it was like Paul McCartney said that like if the factory farms had glass walls, nobody would eat me, right? And that's kind of exactly what happened to me. I was like, I saw how it was made. And I just got grossed out.
Amazing. And Diana, what's your vegan story?
Yeah, I mean, this is like my favorite topic of conversation and also my least favorite because I feel like I always sound like I'm bragging because I went vegetarian at the age of 10. It's been 10 years I've been vegan now. As a female stand-up comedian, I've been to so many open mics that are dominated by white men. So I know a little bit about unimaginable suffering and pain. So I can relate to the animals in that way.
And what happened at 10 that made you go vegetarian? Because that's a very young age.
There was no one specific incident that made me think that harming animals was wrong. It was just always something that I believed. And I think a lot of children, most children, believe that. And I think most children, if they knew that we don't have to harm animals with our dietary choices, that they would make the same choice. And I was just in that position to be able to make that choice, luckily, because, you know, my parents were very supportive of me making that decision.
That's great. I had the same. Talk to us about being a vegan comedian.
I don't like put my agenda too much in the jokes. I'm always following like the funny. I want it to be funny, you know. And if like I happen to have like a vegan joke, then it'll be a vegan joke. But I wish I could have more of an agenda in my jokes I write.
Do you get a different reaction from your vegan jokes than you do from your, let's say, jokes that are not about being vegan?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I have this one vegan joke, and it's a funny joke because, or it's funny because that's kind of
because you said so.
It's funny. No, it's actually not a funny joke. It's not a funny joke, but it's an interesting joke. It's like because I say I'm vegan, and whenever I tell people that, people get kind of like put off, and everyone like agrees. They're like, yeah, veganism, that's so annoying. And then I'm like, so to be less offensive, I just tell people that I'm pro-life.
I'm vegan, but whenever I tell people that, they get kind of like put off. So to be less offensive, I just say I'm pro-life.
Everyone's like, whoa, you know, like, but like, I don't know. I think it's a funny like tension to play with, you know, because if you're vegan, you're kind of pro-life. I mean,
but not
like
anti-choice.
I don't know. Here's the thing. It's weird because I'll find like a spider in my apartment, and I won't even kill that thing. I'll let it go. So.
Oh, you shouldn't.
You know
kill
what
it.
I mean?
But differentiating, you wouldn't want to force a human woman to be impregnated like you wouldn't want a cow to be impregnated.
You're right, but I'm not pro-life or pro-choice. I'm probiotic. I really like kombucha. I'd like to respond to the white male dominated comedian thing really quick. I'm flattered. You think Erik and I dominate the scene? That's cool.
I was not referring to present company.
Okay, cool.
That's a
I'm
good
barely
segue.
hanging on.
Let's talk about being a vegan woman comedian, because all three of those individually are already challenging in our society, and you're taking all three on.
Comedy is such a powerful vehicle for a message. So while Doug might not like to be political, I'm always thinking about, you know, how can I take this political message that I have and turn it funny, turn it into a joke so that people don't even notice that it's going into their brains, you know? They're too busy laughing at it to realize that, you know, that my message is going in there. And you know, I think that once you have a whole room of people laughing at your joke, that's a whole room of people who, for those, you know, 2-3 seconds that they're laughing, they're agreeing with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Diana the vegan, but don't worry, I'm not going to stand up here and do a bunch of jokes about vegans because they never kill.
Have you had people approach you after your show, after you do your vegan jokes, and have hit a spark with them?
I like to think that the message is so subtle that it's just gonna plant a little seed that's later, they're not even, if I'm doing my job right, they don't even notice it's in there, you know? But I really love doing Erik's all vegan comedian shows because that's when I get to, you know, I bring my vegan friends, and it's just a night for us to laugh about being vegan, and we share these inside jokes, and I get to do more of my vegan jokes that I have. I have a lot of vegan jokes, and I have these jokes that, you know, the general public wouldn't necessarily get, but the vegans in the audience, they're gonna get. So I love doing those because it's like we're all sharing this inside joke. But then it's always surprising when I perform some jokes at, you know, at venues where it's largely a non-vegan crowd, and they'll understand. Like I have this joke, my friend said to me, "Can two vegans have beef?" And I said, "No, impossible." And surprisingly, a lot of non-vegans laugh at that joke, and they love it.
So this one time my friend said to me, "Can two vegans have beef?" And I said, "No, impossible."
I didn't think that would translate well to a non-vegan audience, but it does. So, so it's kind of fun to play with that. Like, what jokes are just for the vegans in the audience, and what jokes, you know, can everybody appreciate? And also, when we have some non-vegans at the vegan shows in the audience, then I do a little bit that I think is funny. That I'll ask who's not vegan in the audience, and then I'll give them a vegan leaflet, and the vegans love it, and they go wild.
That's cute.
So it's fun because I'm getting to do activism at the same time that I'm doing.
Oh, this is
comedy.
very, very, very clever. I like that. I like that.
It's fun.
So Erik, how many vegans are in this show?
And we usually, the three of us and another 3 comedians. There are a list of great vegan comedians in New York, I believe also in the other places, America. There is so many people that are doing comedy today. So I think there is already, I know, maybe 20.
Wow.
20 names of great vegan comedians. So, you know, we make an invitation and we're bringing them, and some of them even known and did late nights, and it's a great show. And you know, I feel much safer since we started those shows, because that I feel that I have Diana's back. You know, she looks to you very like gentle, but she's a, you know.
Yeah, but I have a feeling
she's wild.
she might not have your
like
back if you keep you know, participating in cruelty to animals, Erik.
She's wanted in the Jewish community in Borough Park in Brooklyn. You
For
know,
people who are not part?
from stealing 300 pigeons before Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, but this is not the the pigeons, not the chickens.
No, we're just talking about the chickens.
Yeah, that's also she stole the pigeons
That
just
is-
because.
Let's
she
talk
was
about
still-
this. So this is, in case viewers don't know, this is Kaporos. Tell us a bit about what this is and your activism in relation to that.
Of course, but before I start, I just want to say I have not stolen any chickens or any pigeons or any animals.
Yeah, this is what
He's joking, obviously.
the lawyer told
Yes,
us.
I have my lawyer right here. The chickens are actually surrendered to activists. In Brooklyn alone, something like 100,000 chickens are killed every year in this practice, and they are left in these cramped crates outside in all weather conditions for days at a time, sometimes you know, a week or longer. And then the practice is they're held above the head. Actually, this year we saw a lot of them in baskets instead of being held by the wings, which is a great improvement. They're swung above the practitioner's head, and then they are killed. The idea is that the birds will be, their bodies will be donated to the poor for food, but oftentimes we've witnessed that does not happen. Oftentimes, unfortunately, their bodies end up in the garbage. We have activists there every year. This year I've been doing Kaporos activism for the last 5 years. And this year we were filing 301 complaints because, you know, a lot of this practice is against health codes. It's against animal cruelty laws as well. Because even if you're killing animals, you're not supposed to keep them in these conditions according to New York laws on what is okay to put animals through. And so we're filing 301 complaints. We're there to give water and food. We give watermelon to the birds who are kept in the crates. And that is, you know, that is perfectly within our legal right to provide food and nourishment to animals who are being neglected, which they are. And they're being kept on public streets, by the way. Like, in the middle of the sidewalk or in the middle of the street. So it's a public space, we're not trespassing or anything. And then oftentimes, compassionate members of the community will surrender birds to us. They will give us the chickens. And that is where we get, you know, we had, I think it was 200 or 300 birds who were rescued this year alone. These birds go to sanctuaries and they're able to live out, you know, the rest of their lives happy, which is beautiful. So I think it's important that we're there. It's important, even if we're not there, that we're filing 311 complaints against this, because last year we were able to shut a couple of Kaporo sites down, and that was the first year ever that we were able to do that.
There are communities that stop with this primitive habit, you know. I think it has to stop 100%. Because it's what, you know, what's kapara? Basically, before Yom Kippur, kapara, it's to ask forgiveness. So this is what they're doing, and they think they're asking forgiveness. But how you can ask forgiveness by killing an innocent animal? So all this Yom Kippur thing is basically you say sorry, sorry, sorry. And this is what you say sorry about your sins and ask God to forgive you.
People are struggling with maintaining cultural identity and saying that veganism threatens that or impedes, right, the retention of your cultural identity. But so many, culture is constantly evolving. This is what people don't realize. So if we're holding on rigidly to what our parents or grandparents or maybe like centuries, even before that, it's always constantly evolving. So what we should be most afraid of is the future and what kind of culture we're passing on to future generations and this planet, right? Not retaining something that's archaic.
I think it's also Jewish religious in general.
Everybody. How can you be Italian and vegan? I got that all my life. How can you be Italian and vegan? You know, so any culture, any religion always has these elements to it. She talked a bit about laws, animal rights laws, and you were a lawyer, as we mentioned, and you've also studied a bit about animal rights laws. Tell our viewers why. Why should animals have rights?
Well, I think animals should have the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Like, I'm serious. It's not funny. Okay, let me explain. This morning I was walking my dog and someone approached us and goes, "Are you friendly?" And I was like, don't answer that. You know, I don't want him saying anything that could get him in trouble. In all seriousness, it's terrible that the way animals can be treated, whether it's on a factory farm or whether it's in like someone's home. And unfortunately, animals are seen as property. That's the bottom line. And it's a bummer. It's terrible. And it means that people can get away with terrible abuses against them and face very little consequences.
You know, we're talking about all these heavy topics, but it's so, this is what I love about comedy is it's so healing, right? It's such a catharsis. And I think, you know, this is another reason that I really thank Erik for, and Doug for putting together these vegan shows, because it's kind of an outlet.
And that's coming up soon. When is that?
January 15th, Sunday, 7 p.m.
Fantastic.
And room 31.
Okay, great. We look forward to it. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And, we look forward to seeing you again. Coming up, Lucia's Vegan Lifestyle will be taking over Veganuary's Instagram on January 19th. And on January 26th, join me for my panel discussion during the Vegan Travel Summit. For more on vegan living, tune into forthcoming episodes of Lucia's Vegan Lifestyle on MNN Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. bi-weekly. Subscribe to the Lucia's Vegan Lifestyle YouTube channel, follow across social media, and follow and shop on Amazon Live and the curated LVL Amazon storefront. I hope you found this episode insightful and helpful. If you did, be sure to like and comment below and share the link with others. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please tap the subscribe button to help me keep this show going. And if you enjoyed this episode, like and share it, because it really does help support me making this show, which helps people go vegan and stay vegan. Tap on notifications to be the first to know when a new episode or content drops. Level up with LVL and live your best vegan life. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Lucia's Vegan Lifestyle, your show for compassionate living without sacrifice. I'm Lucia, I'm vegan, and this is my lifestyle.